Captain Jake Morrison stared at the sensor display on the bridge of the Liberty's Edge. The small patrol ship moved slowly through the darkness of space near the outer edge of human territory. Jake had been doing this job for 3 years now, and he knew every blip and signal that should appear on his screens. Today, something was different. Lisa Grant looked up from her tactical station. She was young but sharp, and Jake trusted her completely. Her fingers moved across the controls as she checked the readings again. Ben Carter sat at the communications desk nearby. He was the best signal operator Jake had ever worked with. All 3 of them had served together for 2 years, and they worked like a perfect team. The Liberty's Edge was not a big ship. It carried only 12 crew members and had basic weapons. Most people thought patrol duty was boring work. They were wrong. The human colonies stretched across many star systems, and someone had to watch the borders. Jake and his crew took this job very seriously. The sensor alarm started beeping. Lisa's hands moved fast across her controls. She looked worried. Ben turned in his chair to face Jake. The captain walked over to Lisa's station and looked at her screen. What he saw made his blood run cold. 200 ships had just appeared at the edge of human space. These were not human ships. They were big and dark and moved in perfect formation. Jake had never seen so many alien warships in one place. The ships were heading straight into human territory without stopping or sending any messages. Lisa ran the ship designs through the computer database. The results came back quickly. These were Zephyrian battlecruisers. The Zephyrians were a warrior race that had conquered many worlds. They were tall and strong and believed they were better than all other species in the galaxy. They had never fought humans before, but Jake had heard stories about them from other races. Ben's communications board lit up with signals. The alien fleet was talking to each other, but not to any human ships. This was not normal. All ships were supposed to identify themselves when they entered another species' territory. It was basic space law that everyone followed. The Zephyrians were ignoring this completely. Jake walked back to his captain's chair and sat down. He pressed a button on his armrest and spoke into his microphone. His voice was calm but firm. The message went out on all frequencies so the alien ships would hear it clearly. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human patrol vessel Liberty's Edge. You have entered human territory without permission. Please identify yourselves and state your purpose, or turn around and leave immediately. You have 30 seconds to respond. The bridge was quiet as they waited. Jake counted the seconds in his head. Lisa watched her tactical display as the alien ships kept moving toward human colonies. Ben listened to his communications equipment, but heard nothing from the Zephyrians. 30 seconds passed, then 40, then 50. The alien fleet kept moving and said nothing. Jake pressed his communication button again. This is your final warning. You are now deep inside human space. Identify yourselves or leave now. Any hostile action will be met with force. This time, the aliens answered. A deep voice came through the speakers. The translator made it sound cold and harsh. Jake had heard Zephyrian voices before, and they always sounded angry. Human vessel, this is War Commander Thexvar of the Zephyrian Imperial Fleet. We do not recognize your claim to this territory. These worlds are rich in resources that we require. Your people will surrender them or be destroyed. We have conquered 47 star systems. Yours will be the 48th. Lisa looked at Jake with wide eyes. Ben shook his head in disbelief. The Zephyrians had just declared war on humanity with no warning and no negotiation. This was exactly what the human defense planners had been preparing for. Jake stood up from his chair. He walked over to a special panel on the wall that was usually covered by a metal plate. He opened the plate and revealed a single red button underneath. Next to the button were the words that every human patrol captain memorized but hoped never to use. Lisa and Ben watched their captain carefully. They both knew what that button meant. Every human in the military knew about the red button and the protocol that came with it. Jake had drilled this moment many times, but he had never thought he would actually have to do it. The Zephyrian voice came through the speakers again. Human Captain, you will inform your government that they have one standard day to begin evacuation of all colonies in this sector. Any resistance will result in the complete destruction of your settlements. The Zephyrian Empire shows no mercy to those who stand in our way. Jake pressed the red button. Immediately, a signal went out from the Liberty's Edge to every human ship, station, and colony in the sector. The signal traveled at faster than light speed and would reach Earth Defense Command in less than 10 minutes. It would reach the nearest human colonies in just seconds. The signal was simple, but it meant everything. It told every human in space that uninvited guests had entered their territory and declared hostile intent. It activated protocols that had been planned for decades. It started a chain of events that would change the galaxy forever. Jake pressed his communication button one more time. His voice was still calm, but now there was something else in it, something that made Lisa and Ben sit up straighter in their chairs. Something that would have worried the Zephyrians if they had been smart enough to recognize it. War Commander Thexvar, this is Captain Jake Morrison. You have been warned twice to leave human space. You have declared hostile intent against human colonies. You have refused to follow basic space law. Therefore, I am informing you that you are now considered uninvited guests in human territory. Jake paused for just a moment. He looked at his crew and then continued speaking. I hope you packed for a permanent stay because nobody leaves human space without our permission. Welcome to your new home, Commander. I think you are going to find your visit very educational. The Zephyrian commander laughed. The sound came through the speakers like the growl of a wild animal. Do you think your tiny patrol ship can stop my entire fleet, human? We have 200 warships. You have one small vessel with basic weapons. Your threats are meaningless. Jake smiled for the first time since the aliens had appeared on his sensors. He looked at Lisa and Ben and nodded. Both of them smiled back. They knew something the Zephyrians did not know. They knew that the red button Jake had pressed had just activated the most sophisticated defense network in the known galaxy. They knew that every human colony, every mining station, every trade route, and every seemingly peaceful settlement was about to reveal its true purpose. Commander Thexvar, Jake said into his microphone, you are about to learn why nobody enters human territory uninvited. Class is now in session. Admiral Kate Sullivan was drinking her morning coffee when the alert signal screamed through her office at Earth Defense Command. She had been expecting this day for 20 years. Every human military officer had been trained for this exact moment. The red button protocol had been activated, and that meant only one thing. Someone had invaded human space with hostile intent. Kate set down her coffee cup and pressed her hand against the biometric scanner on her desk. The scanner read her palm print and immediately activated every defense system in human territory. Computer screens around her office came to life showing star maps, fleet positions, and colony status reports. In less than 30 seconds, Kate had a complete picture of what was happening at the edge of human space. The Liberty's Edge had detected a Zephyrian battle fleet of 200 ships moving into human territory. War Commander Thexvar had declared his intention to conquer human colonies. Captain Jake Morrison had followed protocol perfectly and activated the uninvited guest response system. Now it was Kate's job to show the galaxy why humans had spent 50 years preparing for this day. Kate pressed a button on her desk and spoke clearly into her microphone. "All stations, this is Admiral Sullivan. We have uninvited guests in Sector 7. Activate Hornet's Nest protocol immediately. All units proceed to assigned positions. This is not a drill." Across human space, the response was instant and coordinated. On the mining colony of New Pittsburgh, Dan Cooper received the activation signal while he was loading ore containers onto his freight ship. Dan smiled and pressed a hidden button on his control panel. The ore containers split open to reveal rows of quantum torpedoes. His cargo ship was actually a stealth missile carrier disguised as a civilian vessel. Amy Rodriguez got the same signal while piloting her transport ship through the asteroid belt near the Centauri colonies. Her ship looked like it carried food supplies to the outer settlements. In reality, Amy's cargo hold contained enough firepower to destroy a battle cruiser. She changed course immediately and headed toward the coordinates in her sealed orders. On the agricultural world of Green Valley, Colonel Rick Hayes was inspecting wheat fields when his communicator buzzed with the activation code. Rick had been pretending to be a farmer for 8 years. The other colonists thought he grew the best crops in the sector. They had no idea that Rick was actually a Special Forces commander, and that every farmer on Green Valley was a highly trained soldier. Rick pressed his communicator and spoke the code phrase that would change everything. "Harvest time, people. The crops are ready." All across Green Valley, farmers stopped their work and headed to hidden weapons caches buried beneath their fields. The agricultural world was about to become a military fortress. The genius of human strategy became clear as the protocol activated across dozens of star systems. For 50 years, humans had been expanding into space and building colonies. Other alien races had watched this expansion and assumed humans were just another peaceful species looking for new worlds to farm and mine. They were completely wrong. Every human colony had been built with dual purposes. The mining stations that extracted valuable minerals also contained hidden weapons platforms. The agricultural worlds that grew food for human space also trained Special Forces units. The trade routes that carried civilian goods also moved military supplies in secret. The entire human expansion into space had been designed as one massive defense network. Lieutenant Tony Mitchell worked at what aliens thought was a simple research station, studying gravity fields near a large star. Tony was actually a weapons engineer, and his research station contained the most advanced gravitational weapons in the galaxy. When he received the activation signal, Tony began powering up devices that could crush enemy ships like tin cans. The Zephyrians had made a fatal mistake. They assumed that humans were like other species they had conquered. Most alien races kept their military and civilian populations separate. Their warships stayed in space while their colonists lived on planets. When enemies attacked, it took time to coordinate between military and civilian forces. Humans had learned from studying these failed defenses. They had decided to make every human in space part of the defense network. There were no purely civilian colonies in human territory. Every settlement, every station, and every ship had both peaceful and military purposes. When the activation signal went out, the entire human population became a single coordinated military force. Captain Julie Fisher received the signal while commanding a patrol group near the inner colonies. Her 3 ships looked like standard security vessels protecting civilian trade routes. When the protocol activated, Julie's ships revealed their true nature as advanced stealth destroyers equipped with the latest human military technology. The most important part of the human defense plan was coordination. Other species fought as individual ships or small fleets. Humans had spent decades practicing to fight as one giant organism. Every ship captain, every colony commander, and every station manager knew exactly what to do when the signal came. They had trained for this day over and over until their responses were automatic. On Earth, Admiral Kate Sullivan watched as her screens filled with status reports from across human space. Every hidden weapon was powering up. Every disguised military unit was moving to position. Every trap that had been built over 50 years of expansion was getting ready to spring. The Zephyrians thought they were invading weak human colonies. They were actually walking into the most sophisticated killing field ever created. Communications Officer Ben Carter, back on the Liberty's edge, monitored the Zephyrian fleet as it moved deeper into human space. The aliens were still talking too, each other in their harsh language. Their conversations showed they expected easy victories against primitive human settlements. Ben almost felt sorry for them. Almost. The alien ships spread out as they approached the first human colonies. War. Commander Thexvar was following standard Zephyrian invasion tactics. He would hit multiple targets at once to prevent coordinated defense. It was a good plan that had worked against 47 other species. It was about to fail completely against humans. Kate Sullivan stood in front of the main display screen in Earth Defense Command. She could see every human ship, station, and colony in their territory. Red dots showed the positions of Zephyrian vessels as they moved deeper into what they thought was defenseless space. Kate smiled coldly as she watched the enemy fleet spread out into perfect positions for what was about to happen. The Admiral pressed her communicator one more time and spoke the words that would seal the Zephyrians' fate. All units, this is command. Our uninvited guests are now in position. Begin the education process. Show them what happens when someone enters human territory without an invitation. Let the lesson begin. Across human space, weapons powered up, ships changed course, and hidden defenses came online. The Zephyrian invasion force was about to discover that humans had been waiting for them. The trap was set, and the prey had walked right into it. Class was about to begin, and it was going to be a very painful lesson for the uninvited guests. War Commander Thexvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the human colonies grow larger on his main screen. The Zephyrian fleet had split into 20 attack groups as they moved deeper into human territory. Each group contained 10 powerful warships capable of destroying any normal planetary defense. Thexvar had used this same strategy to conquer dozens of worlds. Today would be no different. The first attack group approached a mining station orbiting a dead planet. The station looked exactly like what the Zephyrians expected to find. It was a simple metal structure with mining equipment and storage containers. Long-range scans showed only basic defensive shields and no weapon systems. The attack group commander reported that it would be an easy target. Thexvar gave the order to attack. 10 Zephyrian warships moved into formation and began charging their weapons. They planned to destroy the mining station quickly and then move on to bigger targets. The mining station sat quietly in space, apparently unaware of the approaching danger. Then everything changed. The mining station's outer hull split open like a flower blooming. Hidden weapon ports emerged from what had looked like simple storage. Containers. The mining equipment folded away to reveal massive cannon arrays. In less than 10 seconds, The peaceful mining station had transformed into a heavily armed weapons platform. The station's guns opened fire before the Zephyrian ships could react. Quantum energy beams tore through alien shields like they were made of paper. The first Zephyrian warship exploded in a ball of fire. The second ship tried to turn away but caught a direct hit to its engine room. The third ship managed to fire back, but its weapons barely scratched the station's advanced armor. Thexvar watched in shock as his attack group was destroyed in less than 2 minutes. The mining station had more firepower than most planetary defense systems. How was this possible? Human technology was supposed to be primitive compared to Zephyrian weapons. Reports started coming in from other attack groups. Every human target they approached was revealing hidden defenses. Agricultural. Colonies were sprouting weapons from underground bunkers. Civilian space stations were transforming into military fortresses. Trade ships were opening up to reveal missile launchers and beam weapons. On the asteroid mining colony of Rock Haven, engineer Tony Mitchell activated the gravitational weapons he had been secretly building for 5 years. The asteroids around, his station began moving in carefully planned patterns. To the approaching Zephyrian ships, it looked like random space debris. They had no idea they were flying into a trap. Tony smiled as he pressed the activation button. The gravitational generators, hidden inside the asteroids, came online. Suddenly, the space around the Zephyrian attack group became a maze of crushing gravitational fields. 2 alien ships were pulled into each other and exploded on impact. A third ship was stretched apart by conflicting gravity waves. The surviving ships tried to escape but found themselves trapped in an invisible web of gravitational forces. Across human space, the same scene was playing out dozens of times. Pilot Sarah Blake launched her fighter squadron from what the Zephyrians thought was a communications relay station. The station's antenna arrays folded back to reveal a massive hangar bay filled with advanced human fighter craft. Sarah's squadron had been waiting in hidden positions for years, practicing attack patterns and studying alien ship designs. Sarah led her fighters in a perfect formation as they attacked a group of Zephyrian cruisers. The alien ships were designed to fight other large vessels, not small, fast fighters that could dodge between their weapons. Sarah's pilots had trained for this exact scenario. They knew every weak point on Zephyrian ships and exactly how to exploit them. The human fighters moved like a school of fish, flowing around the alien weapons fire and striking at critical systems. Within minutes, they had disabled the main guns on 3 enemy cruisers and crippled the engines on 2 more. The Zephyrian ships tried to retreat, but found their escape routes blocked by more hidden human forces. War Commander Thexvar realized his fleet was not conquering human territory. It was being systematically destroyed by an enemy that had been prepared for this exact invasion. Every human colony, every space station, and every seemingly civilian ship was actually part of a massive military network. The humans had turned their entire territory into a weapon. The worst part was the coordination. The Zephyrians were used to fighting enemies that panicked and fought in confusion when attacked. The humans showed no panic at all. Every defense system activated at exactly the right moment. Every hidden weapon revealed itself when it would do the most damage. Every trap was perfectly timed to catch Zephyrian ships in the worst possible position. Captain Dan Cooper piloted his disguised freighter toward a group of alien destroyers that thought they were chasing a helpless cargo ship. Dan's ship looked damaged and was sending fake distress signals. The Zephyrian ships moved closer, planning to capture the human vessel and interrogate its crew. When the aliens were close enough, Dan dropped his ship's fake hull plating to reveal the true war machine underneath. His freighter was actually a stealth missile carrier packed with enough firepower to level a city. The missile launchers opened and fired a full spread of quantum torpedoes at point-blank range. The Zephyrian destroyers had no time to react before. They were torn apart by the explosion. Back on the Liberty's edge, Captain Jake Morrison watched the battle unfold on his tactical displays. Lisa Grant was tracking the positions of both human and alien forces. The Zephyrian fleet was being cut to pieces by defenses they never saw coming. Ben Carter monitored alien communications as panic began to spread through their ranks. The Zephyrian commanders were trying to understand what was happening to their invasion. They had expected to fight human military forces in normal space battles. Instead, they found themselves trapped in a carefully designed maze where every piece of debris, every space station, and every asteroid could be hiding weapons or soldiers. Colonel Rick Hayes emerged from his underground bunker on Green Valley with a company of Special Forces troops. They looked like farmers, but they moved with the precision of elite military units. Rick had spent 8 years preparing his people for this day. Every man and woman on Green Valley knew how to fight and where to fight. Zephyrian dropships tried to land on the agricultural world, expecting to find frightened civilians. Instead, they found highly trained soldiers who had turned every field into a defensive position. The alien troops were cut down before they could establish a foothold. Their ships were destroyed by hidden anti-aircraft weapons that emerged from what looked like grain silos. As the battle continued, War Commander Thexvar began to understand the terrible truth. The humans had not just prepared to defend their territory. They had designed their entire expansion into space as one giant trap. Every colony they built, every trade route they established, and every peaceful gesture they made had been part of a plan to lure enemies deep into killing grounds. The Zephyrian fleet was being destroyed not because human weapons were superior, but because human strategy was perfect. They had spent 50 years making themselves look weak while building the most sophisticated defense network in the galaxy. They had invited their enemies to attack and then turned their entire territory into a weapon designed to destroy invaders. Thexvar looked at his tactical display and saw that his fleet of 200 ships had been reduced to fewer than 100 in just 2 hours of fighting. The humans were not just winning. They were teaching the galaxy a lesson about what happened when someone entered human space without permission. The education was brutal and thorough, and the Zephyrians were learning that humans were far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. War Commander Thexvar stared at his tactical display in growing horror. His mighty fleet of 200 warships had been reduced to less than 60 vessels in just 4 hours of fighting. The humans had turned what should have been an easy conquest into a nightmare of coordinated destruction. Everywhere his ships went, they found traps and hidden weapons waiting for them. The Zephyrian commander tried to contact his remaining attack groups, but many no longer responded. Those that did respond painted a picture of complete disaster. Human defenses had appeared everywhere, turning peaceful space into a killing field. The few Zephyrian captains still alive were begging for permission to retreat. Thexvar activated his long-range communications and sent a signal toward the edge of human space. He needed to get his surviving ships out of this death trap before they were all destroyed. The humans had won this battle through trickery and deception, but the Zephyrian Empire would return with a larger fleet and proper intelligence about human capabilities. The retreat signal went out to all surviving Zephyrian ships. Those that could move began turning away from their targets and heading back toward the border of human space. Thexvar felt relief as his scattered fleet began to regroup. They had learned a painful lesson about human defenses, but they would live to fight another day. Then the real trap revealed itself. Captain Julie Fisher had been waiting in the outer system with a massive human battle fleet. For 3 days, her ships had been hiding behind the radiation shadow of a gas giant, completely invisible to Zephyrian sensors. Julie commanded 50 of humanity's most advanced warships, each one packed with technology that made Zephyrian vessels look like toys. When the alien retreat began, Julie received her orders directly from Admiral Kate Sullivan on Earth. The message was short and simple: no survivors, no witnesses, no mercy. Julie's fleet emerged from hiding just as the Zephyrian ships reached what they thought was safety. The aliens found their escape route blocked by a wall of human warships. These were not disguised civilian vessels or hidden defense platforms. These were humanity's true military forces, and they had come to finish what the Zephyrians had started. The human ships opened fire without warning. Advanced plasma cannons and quantum torpedoes tore through alien shields and armor like paper. The Zephyrian vessels tried to fight back, but they were outnumbered, outgunned, and completely surrounded. Their weapons barely scratched the advanced armor of the human battle fleet. War Commander Thexvar watched his flagship's shields fail under the concentrated fire of 10 human destroyers. His ship was dying around him, but he managed to send one final message on an open channel. He hoped the humans would listen and perhaps show mercy to his surviving crew. Human fleet, this is War Commander Thexvar of the Zephyrian Empire. We surrender. We withdraw our claim to your territory. Allow my surviving ships to leave and we will never return. We acknowledge your superior defenses and ask for mercy under the galactic rules of war. The human response came from Admiral Kate Sullivan herself. Her voice was calm and cold as it came through the communication system. Commander Thexvar, this is Admiral Sullivan of Earth Defense Command. You entered our territory without permission. You declared war on our people. You threatened to destroy our colonies and kill our civilians. The time for mercy has passed. Kate's next words sent ice through Thexvar's veins. You wanted to conquer human space. Congratulations, Commander. You are about to become a permanent part of it. Your ships will serve as monuments to anyone else who thinks humanity is weak. The human attack intensified. Thexvar watched as his remaining vessels were picked apart one by one. The humans did not just destroy the alien ships. They targeted specific systems to disable them first, then slowly tore them apart piece by piece. It was systematic and brutal, designed to cause maximum psychological impact on any survivors. Marine Colonel Pete Williams led boarding parties onto several disabled Zephyrian ships. His troops moved through the alien vessels like ghosts, capturing crew members and gathering intelligence about Zephyrian military capabilities. Pete's Marines had trained for years to fight in zero-gravity and confined spaces. The Zephyrian warriors were tough, but they had never faced opponents this skilled and ruthless. The human Marines did not just defeat the alien defenders. They studied their tactics, recorded their weapons, and analyzed their technology. Every piece of information would be used to prepare for future encounters with the Zephyrian Empire. The humans were not just winning this battle. They were learning everything they could about their enemies. Back on Earth, Admiral Sullivan watched the final phase of the battle through real-time tactical displays. Every major power in the galaxy was monitoring human communications frequencies. trying to understand what was happening in human space. Kate made sure they got a complete picture of the battle. The recordings would serve as a warning to anyone considering similar attacks. The last Zephyrian warship exploded in a ball of plasma fire. War Commander Thexvar's flagship was the final vessel to die. His last transmission was a warning sent on all frequencies toward Zephyrian space. He told his people that humans were not the weak prey they appeared to be. They were predators who had been waiting patiently for someone to attack them. Captain Jake Morrison on the Liberty's Edge monitored the cleanup operations as human ships swept the battle zone for survivors and wreckage. Lisa Grant reported that 43 Zephyrian ships had been completely destroyed. Ben Carter intercepted emergency beacons from 17 more vessels that were disabled but still contained living crew members. The human fleet did not rescue the surviving Zephyrians. Instead, they attached tracking beacons to the disabled ships and left them drifting in space. The alien survivors would be picked up eventually by their own people, but they would carry with them the memory of how easily the Human Defense Network had destroyed their invasion fleet. Admiral Sullivan made one final transmission on all galactic communication frequencies. Her message was broadcast in dozens of languages, so every species in the galaxy would understand it clearly. This is Admiral Kate Sullivan of the Human Defense Command. Today, the Zephyrian Empire sent 200 warships to invade human territory and conquer our colonies. Those ships and their crews are now part of human space permanently. We are transmitting complete battle records to all galactic powers, so there can be no misunderstanding about what happened here. Kate paused for a moment, then continued with words that would echo throughout the galaxy for generations. Humanity is a peaceful species. We prefer trade and diplomacy to war. However, we are also a prepared species. We have spent 50 years building our defenses and training our people. Anyone who enters human territory uninvited will discover that we do not make idle threats. Your invasion ends here. Your ships stay here. Your crew stays here. Consider this a lesson in why humans prefer to be left alone. The message ended, and silence fell across the battle zone. Human ships began the long process of cataloging the wreckage and salvaging useful technology from destroyed Zephyrian vessels. The cleanup would take weeks, but the message had been sent. The galaxy now knew that humanity was not easy prey. War. Commander Thexvar drifted in an escape pod, one of only a few dozen Zephyrian survivors from the entire invasion fleet. He watched human ships methodically destroying the wreckage of his once mighty armada. The humans had not just defeated them, they had erased them completely. As his pod's emergency beacon began broadcasting, Thexvar composed his final report. To the Zephyrian High Command, he would tell them that humanity was not another primitive species to be conquered. They were something far more dangerous. They were a species that had learned to fight like the galaxy had never seen before, and they were very good at it. 3 weeks after the battle, War Commander Thexvar stood before the Zephyrian High Council in chains. His once proud uniform was torn and stained. His warrior's crest had been removed in shame. He was the sole surviving commander from an invasion force that was supposed to conquer human space in a matter of days. The council chamber was filled with the most powerful leaders in the Zephyrian Empire. These beings had built their civilization through conquest and military might. They had never known defeat. Now they stared at Thexvar with a mixture of anger and disbelief as he told them about the destruction of their fleet. High Counselor Vextar leaned forward in his throne. His voice was cold with rage. Explain to us, Thexvar, how 200 of our finest warships were destroyed by primitive humans. Explain how warriors who have conquered 47 star systems were defeated by farmers and miners. Thexvar had practiced this speech during his long journey home in the human-provided rescue pod. He knew the council would not want to hear the truth, but he had to tell them anyway. The survival of their empire might depend on it. Honored counselors, the humans are not what they appear to be. They have spent 50 years building the most sophisticated defense network in the galaxy. Every colony, every space station, every trade route is part of a massive military system. They made us think they were weak while they prepared to destroy us. The council chamber erupted in angry shouts. Several counselors accused Thexvar of cowardice and demanded his execution. High Counselor Vextar raised his hand for silence. When the chamber was quiet, he spoke again. You expect us to believe that humans who have no great military tradition, who avoid conflicts with other species, who spend their time growing crops and mining asteroids, somehow built a defense network that could destroy our fleet. This is impossible. Thexvar activated a holographic display that showed the battle recordings his ship had transmitted before being destroyed. The council watched in stunned silence as human mining stations transformed into weapons platforms. They saw agricultural worlds reveal hidden military bases. They watched civilian cargo ships open up to display massive weapon systems. It is not impossible, Counselor. It happened. The humans have been planning for invasion for decades. They studied our tactics, our weaknesses, our standard attack patterns. They built their entire expansion into space around the goal of destroying any force that attacked them. We walked into a trap 50 years in the making. Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Kate Sullivan was meeting with representatives from dozens of alien species. The Human Defense Command headquarters had become the most important diplomatic location in the galaxy overnight. Every major power wanted to understand what had happened to the Zephyrian fleet and what it meant for their own relationships with humanity. Ambassador Kelthar of the Rigelian Federation sat across from Kate's desk. His 3 eyes studied the human admiral carefully. The Rigelians had been watching human expansion for decades and had always assumed humans were just another peaceful species looking for new worlds to colonize. Admiral Sullivan, my government has reviewed the battle recordings you transmitted throughout the galaxy. We must ask directly, is humanity planning to expand its territory through military conquest? Are you a threat to other species in this sector? Kate smiled politely and shook her head. Ambassador, humanity has no interest in conquering other worlds. We have more than enough space and resources in our current territory. We built our defenses for one purpose only, to protect what we have from those who would take it by force. The Rigelian ambassador's tentacles twitched nervously. But your military capabilities far exceed what any of us suspected. How many other species have such powerful hidden defenses? How can we trust that you will not use this power against peaceful neighbors? Kate stood up and walked to the large window that looked out over Earth's capital city. Millions of humans went about their daily lives in the city below, completely unaware that the galaxy was watching their species with new fear and respect. Ambassador, you can trust us because we have given you complete recordings of our capabilities. No species would reveal their military secrets unless they had no intention of using them for conquest. We showed the galaxy our defenses because we want everyone to understand that attacking humanity is pointless. Peace is much more profitable for everyone. Captain Jake Morrison had been promoted to admiral after the battle. He now commanded a new class of patrol ships stationed at the edge of human space. His flagship was the Terran Resolve, the most advanced vessel in the human fleet. Jake stood on the bridge looking out at the debris field where the Zephyrian invasion fleet had died. Lisa Grant, now his executive officer, approached with a status report. Admiral, We have completed salvage operations on the last Zephyrian wreck. Engineering teams have cataloged their weapons technology and ship designs. We now know more about Zephyrian military capabilities than they probably know themselves. Ben Carter, promoted to communications commander, looked up from his station. Admiral, we are receiving signals from 17 different species asking for permission to establish diplomatic missions with humanity. It seems the galaxy wants to be our friend now. Jake nodded thoughtfully.